My name is Kathryn Stegeman. I'm an Associate Dean of Admission here at Bowdoin. I'm the Senior Athletics Liaison. I've been here at Bowdoin for 9 years, and I cover parts of Massachusetts and the Bay Area of California. That's my territory that I cover. And we're lucky to have some really great panelists with us tonight. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and I'll start with Tim Ryan, the Athletics Director.
Sure. Thanks, Kat. And good afternoon and good early evening to some of you here on the East Coast. I really appreciate Kat and her team putting this session together so that we can get a chance to spend some time talking about Bowdoin athletics and the student athlete experience on our campus. As Kat said, my name is Tim Ryan. I'm our Director of Athletics at Bowdoin. I graduated from Bowdoin in 1998. I was a double major in government and economics and went on to a career in banking after graduation, and soon realized that that wasn't what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and was fortunate enough to be able to get an opportunity to get into coaching. And since then, was fortunate enough to move into the administrative side of our operations here at Bowdoin, and I'm entering my 9th year as our Director of Athletics. So I'm looking forward to spending some time talking with all of you, and again, just really appreciative of the work done by Kat and her team and our fellow panelists this evening.
Coach Wiercinski, would you like to go next?
Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. My name is Scott Wiercinski. I'm the head coach for men's soccer here at Bowdoin. I have been here for 8 years, but also have a unique perspective as a native of Brunswick, Maine, so have a lot to offer and share about our great town. And very appreciative that you're joining us, and happy to shed some light on Bowdoin as an institution and also our fantastic athletic department. Thank you.
Lester, would you like to go next?
Yes, I'm Lester Jackson. I'm a senior on the football team. I'm a government and legal studies major, and around campus, I'm also the president of the Athletes of Color Coalition, and I'm a member of our Black Student Union and the Bowdoin Democrats.
Great. And Annie?
Hey everyone, my name's Annie Maher. I'm a member of the women's basketball team, and I'm a rising senior, so class of 21. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I'm also a government and legal studies major and a Middle Eastern and Northern African studies minor. I'm the head of our student athlete advisory committee on campus. I'm also a part of an organization called Real Talks on Race, which looks to create dialogue regarding race across campus. I'm also the athletic rep for our student government and an Out Allies mentor, which just looks to essentially mentor students with their sexuality across campus.
Great. So this is our panel for this evening. Thank you for joining us. Again, we're going to be using the Q&A feature. You can type a question at any point in this conversation, and we'll get to it after some remarks by Tim Ryan.
Great. Thanks, Kat. I thought I would give just a quick overview of Division III athletics, the conference that we participate in, and athletics at Bowdoin, and then offer a few broad comments on the recruiting process, just to provide a bit of a foundation from which we all can work from as we all may be coming into this conversation with various levels of experience in our college search process and working through the recruiting process as well. So Bowdoin competes in Division III athletics within the NCAA, and Division III is different in a couple of important ways from Division I and Division II. The most primary one is that financial aid in Division III cannot be based upon your athletic ability, as opposed to Division I and Division II, where scholarships are offered, where aid is granted based upon athletic ability. Also in Division III, we have slightly shorter playing and practice seasons. We play a few less contests. And our competition is based upon in-region competition primarily, and really wanting to focus on the on-campus experience of our students, their academic experience, and their athletic experience as well. Division III institutions across the country average about 19 athletic programs, and about 25% of the student body at Division III institutions are varsity athletes. Bowdoin competes in the New England Small College Athletic Conference, which is a conference of 11 like-minded institutions that share a common belief in the role that athletics should play in higher education, and that then filters into the role that athletic ability plays in the admissions process. And we have some common philosophies and approaches across our 11 institutions, which are based primarily in New England, given the New England name in the name of our conference, and Hamilton College, which is located in Clinton, New York. NESCAC institutions average 30 varsity athletic programs, and that ranges from 27 to 34 programs. And at NESCAC institutions, student athletes are between 15 and 36% of the student body at various NESCAC institutions. At Bowdoin, we support 16 women's varsity programs, 14 men's varsity programs, and 1 co-ed program. So we support a total of 31 varsity programs. The athletic department also oversees intramural sports on campus. We are a mainstay in partnering with campus partners to provide fitness and wellness offerings for students, faculty, and staff. And we also work closely with club programs on campus. At Bowdoin, 36% of the students on campus are a member of a varsity athletic program. Our student athletes are highly engaged on campus. Certainly, the athletic experience is the academic experience is the primary driver of their time on campus. And we're really proud that 45% of our sophomores, juniors, and seniors on our athletic teams qualify for recognition as being a member of the All-NESCAC academic team. And that signifies that they have a 3.5 GPA or higher, which is something that we really celebrate quite a bit within our department and our campus community. As you heard from Annie and Lester, who are 2 great examples of our student athletes on campus, our students are involved in a number of ways. About a third of the residential life staff, about a third of our peer health staff, and at times upward of 50% of our judicial board student staff on campus are varsity athletes. So we certainly aren't sitting in a silo off in a corner of campus focusing only on the athletic experience of our students. We certainly are supportive of students being very, very involved on campus. And we have just about 60 people within our athletic department. And we have 6 full-time athletic trainers, 2 equipment room staff members, 2 sports information staff members. We're all here really to support what we hope will be a really enjoyable and fun and successful experience within our athletic programs on campus. We also have our Leadership and Empowerment Through Athletic Principles initiative, which provides funding for speakers and professional development, opportunities for our coaching staff. We also, through the Leadership and Empowerment Through Athletic Principles initiative, partner with Premier Sports Psychology out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, to provide sports psychology services for our student athletes. And we also partner with a local nutritionist as well to support the needs of our students. So that's a 40,000 foot level view of the athletic experience at Bowdoin, and a little insight into some of the resources that we have, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have to dive into more detail there. As it relates to the recruiting process, our coaches work to develop relationships with prospective students over a number of years, and that can happen from the time when a student may be a freshman or a sophomore in high school and evolve throughout their high school career. Or it could happen very late in the process where someone is in the middle of their senior year and they find Bowdoin and we find them, and Bowdoin ends up being the best place, for them to pursue their academic experience. So there certainly is no limitation in terms of when you come into the process. If you have not been in touch with a coach at Bowdoin yet, the best way to initiate that is through our website, which is at goubears.com, and we have a prospective students tab within that website, and there's an online questionnaire that you could complete and that would just forward your information right along to our coaching staff, and they'll be able to follow up with you. The first step in our process with all of our prospective students is to review your academic profile, because as I was saying earlier, that really is the most important component of your Bowdoin experience. And then we'll look to evaluate from an athletic perspective and provide feedback to you with respect to both aspects. So some feedback in terms of your likelihood for academic success in moving through our admissions process, and then also to give you a sense of where you may fall within our particular programs and the role that you may be able to play within an athletic program at Bowdoin. Our work with the admissions office certainly doesn't result in providing guarantees of admission. Our prospective student athletes go through the same application process as all applicants to Bowdoin. They're notified in the same way as all applicants to Bowdoin. And really that just underscores again that students who choose Bowdoin are choosing Bowdoin for a great education, and then also to be able to enjoy an incredibly successful and rewarding athletic experience. So that's hopefully a helpful overview, and we look forward to answering your questions.
Tim, can you talk a little bit about walk-ons at
Sure.
Bowdoin and kind of the role those play here?
Yeah, absolutely. So about 20% of our varsity athletes on campus come to our programs without having any prior contact with our coaching staff. So that's a pretty significant portion of our teams. Close to a quarter of our teams are students who arrive on campus and have a strong desire to participate in an athletic experience as part of their college experience. We have an open tryout policy for every one of our athletic programs on campus. Any student who wants to try out for a team at Bowdoin is afforded a multiple day tryout process. And you are welcome to reach out to our head coaches and have conversations about what that experience would be like. We certainly are excited about the interest in our teams from students who have not necessarily gone through the formal recruiting process. And we've enjoyed a lot of great relationships with students who have arrived at Bowdoin without going through the recruiting process.
This is a question for Coach Wiercinski as sort of a representative of coaches at Bowdoin. What sort of things are you doing to connect with players right now, in these times, and just how are you sort of keeping the team together? Oh, you need to unmute yourself.
I've been doing this for months. I should be better at it. No, I was about to say that we do a lot with the team and with potential recruits, much like we're doing right now, trying to stay connected in the best ways that we can. Obviously, a lot of email communication as well, but we're really trying to bridge the gap that the COVID pandemic has created in every way that we can, just to continue to develop a relationship with our current team, and obviously continue to develop relationships with potential players that are interested in Bowdoin as well.
This one is for our students on the panel. Would you guys each take a moment just to talk about what it's like to be a student athlete at Bowdoin, both from an athletic standpoint, but also from an academic one?
Yeah, definitely. I can go first. I think one of the great things about going to Bowdoin is being an athlete across campus. I think one thing that really stood out to me when I first arrived on campus was the community. Right away, my team was welcoming me, my coaches were welcoming me. My first game, the crowd was filled with community members. So I think having that support system when you first arrive, especially as a freshman, is quite an amazing experience. It really makes that transition a lot easier. Having people there that are like-minded to you is really important, and helped me kind of ease my way into college. I think overall Bowdoin has been a great experience for me, both athletically and academically. I think it's a great combination going to Bowdoin because you have people that are driven to do extremely well in the classroom, but also on the court. So there's a good balance of competitive spirit with your team, but also in the classroom. So that's kind of one thing I would add.
I want to build on that and say that I agree. One of the most rewarding parts is the support system behind you. The friends that my teammates and my coaches that I made on the team have really helped me throughout my whole Bowdoin process. Like when I first came to Bowdoin, it was really the older guys on my team that gave me a lot of advice, like classes to choose, things like that, helping me along the way. And my coaches did a lot of help since, being a college athlete has a lot of time commitments. My coaches did a lot helping me getting in touch with our Center of Learning and Teaching, which helps you with getting in touch with tutors, and our writing project. And I was actually fortunate enough to where some of my teammates were some of the people who worked as the writing tutors and other things like that, who were the ones helping me out. So I really think the community around the teams and the sport, that's kind of support was one of the most rewarding parts.
Tim, can you talk a little bit about multi-sport athletes and the possibility of playing more than one sport?
Sure. So it's one of the benefits of participating in Division III athletics is that students are afforded the opportunity to be able to play in multiple seasons should they so choose. And another one of the benefits of the shorter playing and practice seasons, you have a little bit less overlap than you may have at different levels of competition. We're very supportive of multi-sport athletes at Bowdoin. Most times it would be a fall athlete who then would participate in a spring sport. But we do have students who participate in back-to-back seasons. That's more challenging, but not impossible. And we work with those students and our coaches to ensure that they are afforded time off to recover from one season before moving into the next season. First and foremost concern would be, the health of those student athletes. And sometimes we have to hold them back where they would much rather jump right in and begin to help their teammates in their next season. When we have students who may be going back to back from either fall to winter or winter to spring. But we have a number of students who are multi-sport athletes. And really with our smaller roster sizes and things along those lines, we really rely on multiple sport athletes to help, support the success of our teams.
I have an admissions question that I'm going to take and answer, which was about the ACT and SAT and whether or not they're required due to the pandemic. And actually can say that for 50 years, Bowdoin has been test optional, 51 actually this year. So the ACT and SAT are not requirements for admission to Bowdoin. And you can find out more on the testing section of our website, but we haven't required testing for 51 years. So that's good. It creates a lot of flexibility in our admissions process. I have another question for our students. The student wants to know, can you just talk a little bit about what your day looks like as a student athlete in normal times and sort of walk us through, how your day unfolds, as it were. And why don't we start with Lester first this time?
So I'll answer in two ways, in an in-season kind of way and an off-season. I'll typically get up and go to a morning lift in season. That's a new thing we started doing with our new head coach, Coach Hammer. We do a morning lift in season before class. I am someone who takes 8:30 classes, so I have to get up pretty early for those. And then on a normal day, I'll have 2 classes. So, it'll be 8:30 to 10, or maybe then the 10:05 to 11:30. And then we'll usually have about 30 minutes to an hour film sometime during the day. Our coaches are really flexible with fitting it around your schedule. I have some teammates that'll do like one-on-one film sessions with our coach. You don't want to get stuck in that kind of situation. It's unfavorable. But then we'll usually start practice around 4:40, and that'll go for about 2 hours. And I just want to say, like, we start our practice around 4:40 so it doesn't interfere with any classes. I don't think any classes go, past 4:30. And then we actually offer some night classes at Bowdoin where you like watch films and things like that. And those usually start like 7:30 once we get out of practice. So it like fits perfectly around your class schedule. So you'll never have to try to schedule around it or not be available to take certain classes. And then out of season, we usually lift for about an hour and a half a day. That'll usually happen either in the morning or in the afternoon around 4:30.
Yeah, I have somewhat of a similar schedule. I just would start with saying one of the benefits of going to a school like Bowdoin or really Division III in general is that you have a great balance between athletics and academics and like co-curriculars even. So our coaches are always scheduling, and our like athletic department is only scheduling our practices and games around classes. So you can take whatever class you want at any point during the year, and it doesn't mean you have to miss a practice or anything. But yeah, preseason, kind of similar. We do 3 lifts a week in the morning, 2 days of speed and conditioning with our strength and conditioning coach, who's amazing, Coach Willie. And then my team plays pickup 3 times a week, usually about 2 hours, just to make sure we're getting prepped to be on the court in the fall or winter for basketball. But yeah, every day, kind of usually a morning lift, team breakfast typically, then a day full of classes, hanging out, and then kind of heading to practice, getting to the trainer before and after, ice bathing, which is the worst, but it's great for you. And then we usually kind of get our work in, our homework done kind of throughout the day. And then after practice, usually across campus, and then get to bed before morning lift. But I think it's a great balance of work and life.
This is a question for Coach. Coach, can you talk about students who want to go abroad and kind of what those conversations look like with your players?
Sure. For us and other traditional fall sports, it's actually quite easy to separate the on-campus semester from players who wish to be off-campus in a different semester. Generally, we have probably 75 to 85% of our junior class will go abroad every spring. And that is very common. Some years we'll have everybody gone. Some years we may have a few more on campus. We totally support it. We're sort of in a lucky position where almost anywhere they can go is a little bit more of a soccer-centric country than the U.S. So it's easy to support that from a competitive standpoint as well, because generally when our guys go abroad, they're able to find places to play and enough sort of soccer activity to keep them sharp for the following season. I think for other sports that are winter seasons that maybe overlap in both the spring and the winter, that could be a little bit more of a difficult decision for a player to make because of their own relative dedication to their sport or their sort of objectives. But I think for a traditional fall or spring sport, it's very common. And I don't want to speak for every coach, but at least most coaches in the department are super supportive of everyone that wants to do that. And again, with the winter coaches, it's a little bit of it's a much bigger sacrifice one way or the other than the spring or the winter. But generally speaking, there are opportunities all over the world. You know, we've had guys from Australia to New Zealand to a whole bunch of different countries in Europe and all kinds of opportunities.
Great, thanks. We do also offer some summer programs for credit as well. So for those 2 sport athletes or winter athletes, there are opportunities to go abroad. Student aid carries over to all of our abroad opportunities for students. So, we never want cost to be a factor in having an abroad experience. So those are also options that we offer our all of our students, not just student athletes.
I'm glad you mentioned that about the summer option, Kat, and that is something that our winter athletes will look to pursue if studying away is something that's of interest to them. And certainly if a student decides to study away in the fall, they're welcome to join a team in the middle of the season when they come back from their abroad experience. That happens with a number of our teams throughout the course of the year as well.
Tim, I actually have a technical question that's come in about the NESCAC sort of regulations right now about recruiting during the pandemic. And this person wants to know when those might be lifted, if there's any information on that.
Sure. So just last week, actually, the NESCAC presidents got together to hear from the athletic directors and put some thought into the best way forward for recruiting, given everything that's going on in the world at the moment. As you likely are aware, we've suspended in-person recruiting activities both on and off campus. And last week, the NESCAC announced that will be in place for the foreseeable future. There really isn't an end date. We had been hoping that we would be able to start doing some in-person recruiting activities and had been going with a 2-week window where we kept looking at the current health situation across the country. And given everything that's going on, the decision was made to just extend that into the foreseeable future. So I wish I could say that I knew when that was going to end, but unfortunately I do not.
I have a question here for the students again. And I have a couple different questions actually about like what relationships are like between sports at Bowdoin. So do teams get along? What sort of interaction is there? And then also would expand that to, what sort of interaction is there between student athletes and non-athletes at Bowdoin? So maybe Anne can go first this time.
Yeah, I think teams have really great relationships across campus. There's a lot of interaction, coming and supporting different games, hanging out, getting meals together, seeing each other on the weekend. I think since we all have a similar experience, it's easy to relate to each other. So that's always helpful. And then I just would add that I think we have a pretty great relationship with non-athletes as well. A lot of my friends don't play sports, and I have plenty of time to see them and hang out with them in different ways that aren't just through athletics.
I agree. I think the athletes of different sports have a pretty good relationship. A lot of who you see supporting each other at our games are other athletes who are coming from a practice or just there to support you, and then we always go and support them as well. And with the non-athletes at Bowdoin, it's also a very good relationship because it feels like we have a large percentage of our students are athletes, so it really like meshes, and it doesn't feel like there's a difference between the athlete and the non-athlete because there are so many athletes around. I would say as a percentage of our students. And another thing that helps us all get along is that when you come in as a first year, they try to mix up your room so that I'm as a football player, I'm not rooming with 3 other football players. It's actually 3 people who are involved, and they try to get in completely different activities and things around campus in different sports. So I think that also helps a lot.
Lester, I actually have a follow-up question for you. A participant would like to know a little bit more about the Athletes of Color Coalition. Do you mind talking a little bit more about that?
So the Athletes of Color Coalition is a groups of athletes who identify as people of color, and we meet once a week to just share our experiences and discuss some things that we want to do around campus. Like one thing we did was we had a talk on race and athletics this past spring, and we had most of our athletic department and athletes there to come and discuss and hear different stories. And also we work very closely with our athletic director, Tim Ryan, to make some changes in things that we want to see to make Bowdoin a better place for all our athletes.
Great, thank you. Actually, I have a question again for Coach. Can you just talk a little bit about how the pandemic is impacting the recruiting timeline for you, and maybe just also, once a student submits the online questionnaire, what happens after that? So just kind of tying those two things together.
Sure. I think the pandemic has really caused a monstrous pause in the process. Generally we would go into the summer, or many coaches would go into the summer and feel like they have a really specific and targeted list of what they want their incoming class to be. And this year, because we've missed the opportunity to evaluate so many players, to host camps, to travel and see players play, there's just this huge vacuum of knowledge that we don't have at this point in the calendar that we would usually have. So I think a lot of coaches are hitting the pause button and saying, NESCAC presidents, so hopefully you change that rule soon, and then we can get out and fill in those vacuums. But the other possibility is just at some point, coaches may have to get to the point where they're aggressive to recruit someone without the same level of knowledge that they might have had in a different year. Just so much about this year is different and wonky. So we're constantly seeking opportunities to kind of fill in that void. There's a lot of email communication, a lot of video transfer back and forth to try to get to know each other, a lot of coach contacts. If we've never seen you play, we may call your coach and say, what do you think of this player? And try to zero in and extrapolate how they might fit into a program. But it's kind of uncharted territory. We're kind of relying on some techniques or tools that we would hopefully not rely on, that are now becoming more important and a higher priority in our process. But I think generally coaches are dogged to try to fill in those blanks. So we're working at it pretty aggressively. I think to your second question is that once a questionnaire is submitted, or once a line of communication is open between coaches and players and candidates, the biggest diverging road is, can we get all the information we need academically to understand whether someone is a great candidate for Bowdoin? And then can we, on the other road, get enough information to understand whether they're a great athlete with potential to help our program get better? And those two research streams really are independent of each other. And if they're a great candidate, great, we want to learn more about them as students, or vice versa as players. But every situation's a little bit different. Like Tim Ryan said earlier, there are some guys on our team, or any team at Bowdoin, that come to the process extremely late, and other relationships that have developed since freshman year in high school. And there's really no one size fits all. So wherever you are, my encouragement or advice would be open that line of communication, and then find out specifically what you can do to get closer to the end of that pipeline. But ultimately, it's going to be academic information and athletic evaluations to understand what sort of player you are, and what the coach would have in mind for a player of your ability and of your athletic ability, technical ability, all that kind of thing.
Great, thank you. I have another student question for you guys, for Annie and Lester. What was it that made you choose Bowdoin over other schools that you might have been considering?
I can start. I'm from Seattle, so I didn't know a lot of East Coast schools, and my mom knew about Bowdoin. So when I was out on the East Coast, I went to our elite clinic, which essentially is just for recruits to come and play for a couple days. And I just instantly fell in love with the team chemistry. The girls on the team were like laughing and singing and like so welcoming. So that kind of atmosphere really was enticing to me. And I think that kind of energy stayed true across Bowdoin as well. I went to my admissions tour, and the main thing they talked about was the common good and really how we support one another and the community around us, and kind of all came together. So really for me, it was one, that kind of academic and athletic rigor. So going to a great academic school along with a great basketball program. But what kind of really sold me was the community and that sense of welcoming that I was shown when I wasn't even a student, before I even came to Bowdoin. So that's kind of what sold me.
I first met the football coaches at a camp in Atlanta where a lot of the New England schools came down. And when I did, it was kind of funny because my initial reaction was, I'm actually from Savannah, Georgia. And so when the coaches told me, oh, hey, our school, Bowdoin College, is located in Brunswick, Maine, you know, I initially was taken aback because I was like, I'm sorry, coach, I don't know. It's going to be way too cold for me up there, things like that. But as I looked the school up and saw the that it had great academics and great everything across the board when you look it up is looked amazing. And so I took a visit and I really enjoyed it. I liked the guys on the team. I met a lot of people and a lot of students around the community. And the campus was beautiful, and I just fell in love for then. And I didn't think I would end up going to college in Maine, but coming from Georgia, but here I am.
Great. We're glad you're here. We're glad you braved winter. Tim, can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned athletic trainers earlier, and all of the resources, sports psychologists and so forth. Can you just maybe expand on that a little bit more?
Sure. So starting with our team physician, we have a partnership with Orthopedic Associates, which is one of the premier sports medicine providers in the state of Maine. We have a clinic set up on every Monday morning where our student athletes can go in and see our team physician. OA has an office right down the street from campus within walking distance. So we have immediate access to really superb medical providers and specialists right here within walking distance from campus. And our head athletic trainer, Dan Davies, oversees our staff of 5 additional trainers. The vast majority of our teams have a trainer that will work with the team throughout the entire course of the year. Some of our teams that don't necessarily compete on campus, Nordic skiing, for instance, sailing, programs like those have athletic trainers who support our students while they're here on campus. We just don't necessarily travel with those particular programs. All of our student athletes have access to our athletic training rooms throughout the course of the day. Also, we partner with Orthopedic Associates for physical therapy treatment, which again takes place within walking distance from campus, and our students are able to get in within 28 to 48 hours for PT appointments and working through our partnership with OA. And then in terms of sports psychology, we're really fortunate to partner with a woman by the name of Marissa Norman, who comes to campus 4 times throughout the course of the year for multiple days to have individual meetings with student athletes, to meet with teams, to meet with leadership groups, to meet with our coaches, and really talk about the sports psychology component of the overall collegiate experience, but also as it relates to athletic performance as well. We also partner with Premier Sports Psychology and work with their online education module that they have, which provides insight into 6 core development areas for both our student athletes and our coaches. And then we have a nutritionist who comes to campus every Wednesday and is available within the Buck Center to spend time meeting with student athletes, talking both about nutrition as it relates to sports performance, but also just every day going through the dining hall and thinking about options that are available for students to make sure that they can lead a healthy lifestyle. And that continues as they're finishing their athletic career as well, and transitioning from someone who may be highly, highly active to someone who may not be quite as active, and thinking about, proper nutrition going forward. So those are just a few of the services that we provide for our student athletes.
We have a lot of questions coming in that we won't get to in our allotted time. So I apologize if we didn't get to a question that you've asked. But I do want to ask one maybe final round questions for the panelists. And that would be to talk about your favorite tradition at Bowdoin, and that might be an athletic tradition, or a rivalry game, or kind of a highlight for you in the course of a normal year here at Bowdoin. So Coach Wiercinski, I'm going to put you on the spot first. So traditions, rivalries, things like that.
Sure. I think rivalries are hard to decide which one's more enjoyable, because they're all pretty hotly contested, and I think they vary in the amount of salt, but they're all enjoyable for different reasons. For me, my favorite tradition is one that we're in a normal year fortunate enough to experience several times, is just a Saturday afternoon in the fall when all Bowdoin teams are home. It is a really special atmosphere, whether it's Parents' Weekend or homecoming, or just the first Saturday of home games, where it really is a festival or carnival kind of atmosphere around Bowdoin, because at least in the fall, all 4 teams that are competing in sort of designated facilities could be home and in playing at similar times. So for someone to go from field hockey to men's soccer to women's soccer to football in an afternoon, it just brings sort of black and white Bowdoin and polar bear pride all over town. And the other piece of it that I love so much is that so much of our fan support is from community members. Annie can speak to this for women's basketball, but even for men's soccer, if you came to a game, you'd probably see 100 kids under 10 years old and hundreds of townspeople, more so than you would see students. And we'd still see a lot of students. And that just really has a cool flavor to campus through the course of the fall. And if the leaves are the right color and the weather's great, it's just an awesome, it appeals to all 5 senses. And that's my favorite time of the year.
That's my one of my favorites as well, being a super fan. And I literally ride my bike, so I can walk across the street to the men's soccer field. So that makes me really lucky. But I then hop on. What's that?
If you like the music.
Love the music. I love the music. Can then hop on my bike and ride down to the football field, and then come back and watch some women's field hockey. And then the cross country teams are running around the fields as well. And it is a pretty magical experience to be able to see so many competitions in one spot in one day. Lester, how about you?
I want to say for me, and for my team, we every year our last 2 games are Bates and Colby, and those are our biggest rivals. We play them for the we call it the CBB, or the Maine State Championship, every year. The winner of those 2 games will be the Maine State champions, and they'll get a trophy. And that's like really special to me, because that's the end of the year, so you got to pour everything you have into it. And being the rivals, it makes it all that much more special and important game. And we usually expect to see like all the students come out to that one, and it really makes it a great atmosphere. Mm-hmm.
Annie, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So this is kind of specific to my team, but every single season, my team, when we celebrate our seniors, we have a whole weekend. And pretty much my last 3 years, every single parent has been able to come. And on Sunday morning, we have a mom and daughter game. So we play with our moms in a game. And it's honestly pretty hilarious because most of the moms have never touched a basketball in their life, and they're launching the ball up there. So that's probably one of my favorite basketball traditions. I also have so many, but I would also just add like when Tufts and Amherst especially come around, because that's basketball's kind of big rivalries right now, and the gym fills up, and just seeing people like waiting outside to get into our games is really a cool experience. So yeah, those are probably my two favorite. And since we've only really been talking about athletics, I would just add Ivies in the spring is like super fun when the season's over. And we have a spring concert series that pretty much the whole school comes out to. So that's another great Bowdoin tradition.
Yeah, Ivies. If you didn't catch that, that was Ivies, which is like a 3-day music festival almost, replete with food trucks and usually a headliner. And Racer X most years, which is the 80s cover band that, you know, our music and like math faculty play in. So yeah, that's a great experience as well. Tim?
So you all, I think, eloquently described what a fall weekend is like on campus. And I would say that those really are special times. And with my role, I'm really fortunate to be able to kind of hop around from game to game throughout the course of the year, and to see those little moments where maybe, you know, it's a tennis match has been decided, but there's one of our athletes still out there competing, and they come back from being down a set and win a match that, you know, they very easily could have just packed it in, but they wouldn't do that, and they just do a great job representing Bowdoin. It's those little moments that I really love getting a chance to see on a day-to-day basis with our athletes excelling. And then I would say at the end of the year, we have our All Sports Awards ceremony, where we bring all of our student athletes together in Pickard Theater. So there's, you know, upwards of 650 people there, and it's a celebration of all of the success that our student athletes have throughout the course of the year, whether it's engagement in community service, their academic experience, their athletic experience. We recognize first-year student athletes. We recognize outstanding senior athletes. We kind of cover the whole gamut, and we try to provide an enjoyable experience for our student athletes where, you know, we're able to recognize all of their success and bring our partners from across campus together to recognize those students. And Kat has been a presenter at that event for us in the past. And it's really a great way to celebrate all that we're about in Bowdoin athletics in one evening.
It's a really powerful experience to see the teams come together and cheer for each other, and to hear about all of the accomplishments that our student athletes have on the court, on the field, you know, the teams that compete off campus like sailing and Nordic skiing, you know, where it's harder to, you know, see them and cheer them on, but they're out there grinding it out nevertheless, to see those accomplishments celebrated as well. And it's a wonderful celebration of the Bowdoin community, really as a whole. You all asked some amazing questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get to them all. I do encourage you to reach out to your regional admissions person if you have an admissions question, or to a coach if you're interested in a specific sport. We also offer an online virtual information session. You can see those listed online under Visit Virtually. So that would be with an admission person, and we talk about the ins and outs of the admissions process here at Bowdoin. We offer an online interview as well as part of our admissions process. It's a great way for us to get to know you as a person with our holistic admissions review. So those are two great opportunities to pursue next if you're a rising senior for the interview, but anyone is welcome to join in on the virtual information session, again, run by an admission counselor. We also have them run by our student aid officers. So if you have questions about student aid, I'd encourage you to watch one of those. If you're not on our mailing list, please get on our mailing list. That's how you hear about, you know, more about Bowdoin and receive actual mail, which is still a thing, and a great way, again, to get more information. I just want to say thank you to our panelists for joining us tonight. So Annie and Lester, thank you for being on here. I look forward to the day where I can cheer you on in person. Thank you for being here. And thank you to Coach Wiercinski and to Tim Ryan as well for being here. This will conclude the Zoom at this time, but thank you for logging on, and we hope to be in touch with you all soon. Take care.